This is the Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020 episode of the Dark Illumination Report Podcast Extra. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about personal development and answering a question from Rob and from Simon.
This is a Dark Illumination Report Extra with RJ Womack.
Hey everybody, I just had to re-record the intro to this podcast because I got the date wrong, so it's going to be a little bit out of sync and out of whack today because I don't want to take the time to edit it because I'm already running late as it is because I realized I messed up some of the information I put on the podcast. So hopefully you'll bear with me and forgive the inconvenience here. But on today's episode, I really want to talk to you a little bit about personal development, and I'll get into that in the main segment of the show. But for now, I want to answer a couple of questions that came from Rob and from Simon. I think Simon asked me, why do I do the podcast every day, or why don't I do it once a week instead so I don't burn myself out? And the first thing I want to say about that is, yeah, the show would be better if I put more time in between episodes. But honestly, Simon, the truthful answer is I believe just being here every day is the main part of the ministry. I believe that's truly what people want, is someone to be here every day, someone they can depend on that will give them advice and answer their questions and generally just be someone they can kind of relate to that is devoted to Satan the way that they are. And I think the fact that I'm here every day, even though the shows may not be perfect, helps people to have faith that somebody actually believes in this religion, that somebody actually cares enough to be here every day. So that's the main part of the ministry. I'm not saying that I'm not going to put effort into the show, but I think one of the major points of all this is just to be here and show up every day so that people have hope and faith that somebody believes in the religion for its own sake. And it's not just about money. It's not just about prestige or ego or image or anything like that. It's just about doing the right thing and trying to help people. I think that's part of it. The other thing I would say too is that I just feel like the momentum's growing with the show. And I feel like one of the reasons it is growing is because people are getting used to me being here every day. And the main reason I do this podcast is to get the message out that people are actually out there that do believe in Satan, that do take it seriously, that are devoted, that it's not just a bunch of young kids into heavy metal. It's people who actually live this religion. It's people who actually believe in it and live by it every day. And I think that's important. So that's why I do it. And the other question I had comes from Rob. And the question was, what kind of fiction do I write? Well, technically, I just started writing fiction just recently in the last year or so, and I haven't really finished anything yet. What I like to write is a supernatural fantasy, and what I'm hoping to do is eventually release some serial fiction, episodic fiction, so that I can promote myself as a fiction writer of occult, supernatural, fantasy type fiction stuff. I don't know how it's going to be received, and I don't know if I'll actually achieve that. I don't know if I'll actually release anything or not. I'm working on it as we speak, along with a new book that I said I was going to try to have out by the end of the year, which details the ministry and the ideas behind the ministry and the basic philosophy. I'm trying to get that book out still by the end of the year. I don't know if it's going to come out by the end of the year. I'm thinking that it's going to, because I'm making good progress on my writing that I've been doing for that. Plus, I've been doing the fiction writing, as I explained. But we'll see how it all turns out. But anyway, I'm in the process of trying to look for cover designers and things like that for the book and stuff. So everything's still on schedule at this point, but who knows if it'll change. But that's, I'd really like to be known for writing supernatural fantasy fiction. I'm particularly interested in doing serial fiction, episodic fiction, because I think that's really cool to do fiction in episode format and do it in a way that it's like a TV show and it carries on for a couple of seasons, just like a TV series. I think that's really neat and really interesting, but it's also one of the harder forms of fiction to write, especially if you're not very experienced. It's kind of an ambitious thing to take on, but it's something that I'm really interested in. And I'm really interested in the fact that, this ministry has attracted a lot of interest from writers and people who want to be writers and people who are interested in having a writing career. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing I want to point out here before we get into the main topic of the show is that you guys have supported this show, and I really appreciate it. I mean, our listenership, our downloads have gone up by quite a bit. Now, I know part of that is due to the fact that we've had, you know, multiple episodes a week. And so obviously the downloads are going to increase by quite a bit because we're having an episode every day. But that being said, I still think that we've increased quite dramatically. I mean, our downloads have exceeded what we were getting before, plus they've doubled, more than doubled actually, from what they were originally. So I think we're doing really well, and I owe all of that to you guys for supporting this show and for being an active part of the show and giving me your feedback. And if it wasn't for your questions and your support and your encouragement and just your general interest in the show, I don't think we'd be doing as well. But this is definitely our best month by far. And I just wanted to take the time to thank you guys for that support and that understanding and just generally being decent human beings, because that's so rare in diabolism and it's so rare in occultism. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining me for another episode of the podcast. I'm RJ Womack, aka Brother Nero, and this is the Dark Illumination Report podcast, where we promote the religious worship of Satan and demons as a serious faith and way of life, and we try to pass it down to future generations of Diabolists. On today's show, I want to talk a little bit about personal development. I got a message a while back from one of our listeners who said that the goal setting and personal development episode really helped them, the life plan episode. And I want to talk to you a little bit about why I'm such a big fan of personal development and self-help and why I think it's important in occultism. And I know for some of you, you're probably going to be rolling your eyes and say, what does this have to do with Satanism? But bear with me, okay? And and I'll explain to you one of the reasons I'm so passionate about it as well. The Christians have dominated this subject. They have made it out, they've connected Christianity with this, just like they do everything else. They steal everything, okay? And so I want to take the personal development, productivity area and start developing books and information on personal development and on goal setting so that we can kind of take it back from Christianity, because a lot of the techniques are based on psychology and based on early occultism like alchemy and Hermeticism. It's not based on Christianity. In fact, most of the basic philosophy of personal development and self-help go against the very principles of Christianity. So to have these ministers go out here and promote personal development and productivity and all that stuff as a Christian thing really burns me. So with that in mind, I just want to let you know that I'm going to be doing episodes or personal development segments and productivity segments in order to help you evolve. I think we should use any tool that helps us evolve as an individual, helps us grow and get stronger. And I don't care what it is, as long as it's not Christian in origin. And that's the way I feel about personal development. I feel like having a life plan, having goals is extremely important. And I'll give you an example of why I think it's important. When I was younger, I attended the community college and was in the process of getting a degree in public relations, advertising, and journalism. And I got sidetracked by going to England, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that because I wasn't a focused individual, I didn't end up completing my degrees. I have about 3/4 of the credits for about 3 different associate's degrees and didn't finish them because I got sidetracked by different religious things that I was doing. Now, had I been more focused, had I been more goal-oriented, had I had a life plan, I would have realized that staying involved in school and going off to England and worrying about my religious practices and not focusing on both of them at the same time was probably not a good plan, because Lord knows, or Satan knows, that we all need good public relations and journalism techniques in Satanism, especially when we're trying to promote a ministry. I would have benefited greatly from a degree in journalism and public relations instead of a kind of halfway, half-done associate's degree, which does me no good and gives me no credibility. I mean, there are still many of the techniques that I've learned from that experience that I can use. I know how to put together a decent press release and get media attention if I need to. And in fact, I did a radio show years back where I did a national radio show where I debated a Christian about Satanism. And I don't even know if you can still find that show. I don't even know what it was called. But I got that show as a direct result of me sending out press releases, pitching myself to be interviewed on radio. And you may be able to find it if you look around, but I don't know if it's still out there or where it is. I can't even remember the name of the show anymore. I just know that it was I debated a guy that wrote a book called Lucifer's Lodge. And I think his name was William Kennedy, and he was a Christian. He believed in all these Luciferian conspiracy theories and that sort of stuff. So if you look up his name, you might be able to find the interview. So that's neither here nor there. I was just trying to point out that had I been more focused on my goals, and had I written them down, and had I been more directed in my process, I wouldn't have got distracted. And in fact, I was just starting to go back to school to finish my degrees when this COVID-19 thing happened. So I've got like 2 semesters that I completed, and then all of a sudden, now the COVID-19 thing came around and I'm not doing it online. So I'm kind of in pause mode at the moment, but I still may end up getting my public relations degree in the end. I don't know. At age 50, I'm wondering if I shouldn't focus on Satanism and not focus on public relations, because I've been getting the call to focus more on ministry and really put my energy into ministry and try to do that more in a professional way instead of a, kind of a side thing, because I think the ministry is so important. And I think the future of Satanism depends on having someone who is dedicated to ministry and tries to treat it as a professional thing. The only thing is, when it comes to doing ministry work, it's not like you're going to make a living doing this, especially in Satanism. I mean, if you do like some authors do and you write 15 or 20 books on Satanism, maybe you'll be able to make a living at it. But you're certainly not going to make a living doing a podcast for free. And you're certainly not going to make a living writing one book every 10 years or so. So that's another thing I have to think about carefully. Take care of yourself, everybody. That's it for today. I hope that helps kind of give you an idea where I'm going.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Illumination Report podcast. For the latest news headlines, show information, and more, go to rjwomack.com. That's rjwomack.com.